All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. As a reminder, if you would like a certificate of attendance for continuing education, please do our room monitors. They're technically in the back right now, but they'll move up here because you'll sign out and they'll give you a certificate of attendance. So the title of the presentation today is Overcoming Sleep Apnea. Our presenter is Matthew Baylog. Currently, he is a pediatric clinical sleep educator at Advocate Children's Hospital, and presenting with him is Joey Morton. Please give them a warm welcome.
Hey, you guys. Hello, my name is Joey Morton. I am almost 20 years old, and I live in Laos with my mom, dad, my brother Luke, and my sister named Molly. I'm a full-time student in the Field Research Assistant program called Connections. And I also work at a local pet shop twice a week. I play Special Olympics basketball, bowling, and track. I also volunteer at the Naperville Police Department and at Whole Foods. I really love to practice my rap music and sort my sports cars. My favorite character on TV is Donnie Wahlberg, and so Blue Bloods. I'm here today to talk to you about sleep apnea. Luke and I used to share a bedroom, and I would wake him up with my snoring and when my breathing would stop and start. My parents started to get very worried about me because I was tired all the time. Falling asleep on short car trips or whenever I sit down. After doing blood work to make sure I wasn't sick, my endocrinologist recommended a sleep study to see how much rest I was getting all night. I did a sleep study. A technician hooked me up. All of these sticky sensor things all over me, on my head, chest, back, and legs. I was in a quiet room with a big bed, and my mom slept in a bed in the corner. The stickers all over me told the technician when I stopped breathing. And by the end of the stickers all over me told the technician when I stopped breathing. And by the end of the night, the sleep just showed I stopped breathing 45 times each hour. A sleep apnea diagnosis is given to people who have 5 or more episodes per hour. A sleep apnea diagnosis is given to people who have 5 or more episodes per hour. So I definitely had it. My doctors figured out I suffered from both kinds of this sleep disorder. OSA, because my airway was getting blocked while I slept. And CSA, when my body would just forget to breathe. Because my sleep apnea was considered severe. I was prescribed a CPAP machine, like that one on the table. I was not very happy about it, or excited about it, using the machine at first. Being exhausted all the time was not fun. And I thought the machine would ruin the little bit of sleep I was getting. The people at the Sleep Study Center understood this. It had me come in for a pat now. They explained the device to me and my mom Then had me try on all the different masks to find the one I was most comfortable with. I got to take the mask for a test run for a few hours. The machine showed us that with the CPAP blowing air through the mask, I only stopped breathing 4 times per hour for the nap. We decided this would be good for me. Took the machine home. My CPAP fits in my nightstand next to my bed. The tube is very long. The tube is very long and lets me roll around to get comfortable. The mask is soft and flexible. And I got used to it very quickly. I sleep on my stomach most of the time. And the CPAP does not wake me up or bother me. There are no alarms, bells, or whistles that make noise as the mask falls off. And all the information on the computer inside the machine collects and sends to my doctors every day to guarantee I am using the CPAP the right way. Our pulmonologists office showed us how to clean the machine and how to order parts that need to be changed. A cleaner tube, mask, and tank once a week. And my mom and dad order new pieces according to the schedule in the CPAP company. Using my device is easy now. Even though I was scared at first, I had to get used to being plugged in, hooked up to something in a quiet Darth Vader sound. Sometimes I would remove the mask in the middle of my night, or it would fall off. But the computer could always tell, and so me and my parents that I breathe so much better with it on. My machine is no big deal now. It stays on me all night. I sleep much better, and I'm so much more awake during the day. I do not snore anymore. I have a lot more energy during the day. I'm very glad I have my CPAP machine. Thank you very much for coming and for letting me talk about my machine and my sleep apnea. And on to Mr. Matt.
Okay. Well, now to the less entertaining portion of the talk. Joey did great. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the nuts and bolts of sleep apnea, and what it is, the signs and symptoms, sleep testing a little bit, not as well as Joey did. Joey kind of hit the nail on the head there. And then treatment options and tips for successful CPAP adherence. And just because CPAP is one of the more prevalent treatment options out there. All right, so let's get on to obstructive sleep apnea. So this is kind of the professional definition, which confuses most of us here, right? The disorder of breathing during sleep characterized by prolonged partial upper airway obstruction and or intermittent complete obstruction that disrupt normal ventilation during sleep and normal sleep patterns. There's a lot to unpack there. So let's just simplify that. So when you think of obstructive sleep apnea, you want to think of not just one disorder, it's kind of a continuum. And it's a continuum of progressively narrowing airways. All right, so you have mild obstructive sleep apnea, your airway is narrowed a little bit. Severe obstructive sleep apnea, your airway is narrowed a lot. So if you think of your airway quite like a garden hose, if you pinch it off a little bit, the flow slows down. So it's the same way with your airway breathing in and out. So we start with normal breathing. Normal breathing is characterized by breathing in and out through your nose. Now that's difficult for a lot of people, but nasal breathing is optimal because it humidifies the air that we get and it also filters it. It also sends the air down the right pathway so it doesn't create turbulence. I'm not talking about the turbulence that you experience when you're flying. That's quite a bit of turbulence, but there's a little airway turbulence. And that can create a little bit of inflammation, which can narrow the airway a little bit, which can create some snoring, which can create more airway inflammation and can turn into obstructive sleep apnea. So it's a little bit of a process. So once we see somebody start mouth breathing, we know that's kind of the first step. There's something going on, there's a little bit of airway narrowing to where they don't feel comfortable breathing in and out through their nose. And that can cause that cascade that can push us further and further towards sleep apnea. So beyond mouth breathing, then we have snoring. So snoring is just the vibration of the tissues in the upper airway as you breathe in and sometimes out for big snores there. It can be loud, it can be soft, but it is a sign that the airway is narrowed enough to allow that vibration of the tissues. And that vibration of the tissues can cause inflammation, which can narrow the airways further and push you down the continuum. So once you're on this track, it's important to kind of nip it in the bud and stop you from getting all the way over. This upper airway resistance syndrome is what I like to call pre-OSA. So those respiratory events that Joey was talking about, those haven't formed yet. So you're not getting low oxygen saturations or anything like that, but you're waking yourself up because you're trying a little bit harder to breathe and open up that airway. So you're gonna feel tired, you're gonna wake up a little bit more during the night, which you may or may not remember, that brief awakenings, but it's not full-blown obstructive sleep apnea. Once you get to that AHI of 5, like Joey was saying, then you have sleep apnea. And then that can be mild, moderate, or severe. So it's a process, so it's not just one thing. So that's important to keep in mind. So this is just more of the same. You breathe in through your nose, it follows a nice path down the trachea, into the lungs, there's no airway turbulence, that is nice and filtered. Snoring, you get a little bit of a pinched airway there, and then OSA is a complete or mostly complete obstruction of the airway. Now, folks with Down syndrome are particularly prone to OSA because they start out with a more narrowed airway than the general population. And it's just the structure of their airway. It's just a little narrow. So they kind of start out like that. And they might also have some hypotonia, which is a little muscle weakness in the muscles that hold open the airway. So it's kind of dually helping out OSA there. So now the APP, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the APP is something else. They recommend that everybody with Down syndrome get sleep tested by the age of 4, just because the prevalence is so high of OSA in Down syndrome folks. And that way you can treat it, you can stop it from becoming full-blown OSA, or get on CPAP, or treat that so you don't get the daytime tiredness and fatigue and some of the cognitive symptoms of OSA. Okay, so that was OSA. So how do you know? How do you know if you have OSA? So there's a long list of symptoms there. Most prevalently here, you're going to have snoring, right? It's not always indicative. There was a study that came out a few years ago that said 40% of folks with Down syndrome didn't snore but had sleep apnea, so it was a little weird there. So sometimes people characterize snoring as a certain type of sound, or they might just say, oh no, he's fine, he just has noisy breathing. So the word snoring isn't always indicative of sleep apnea. The labored breathing during sleep and the gasping, snoring, snorting is kind of very indicative of sleep apnea, or at least that spectrum of sleep apnea. The daytime tiredness is very prevalent, especially in older kids or adults, just because they're not getting that restorative sleep at night. So they're working with less sleep, they're tired. So those are kind of the more obvious ones. But there's more subtle symptoms, like bedwetting, especially for kids over 5. And in adults, if you're waking up to go to the bathroom a lot during the night, that's the same thing. There's a strange thing that happens with OSA. It actually inhibits this hormone that stops urine production at night. So if you snore and have sleep apnea, you're actually producing more urine than you should be, and that's why you're going to the bathroom at night. I don't know who figured that out. It's a little strange, but there we go. Cyanosis mostly in infants and young children. That's turning blue, so that's kind of a big one there. The headaches on awakening is very prevalent with adults and older kids who can kind of verbalize that. So, when I wake up, my head hurts. I have a headache every morning. So that's kind of a key sign of OSA. Then that ADHD, learning problems, daytime sleepiness are kind of the hallmark of pediatric OSA. So we don't see a lot of that in the adults, but we do see it in peds. On physical exam, overweight or underweight, so we want you kind of right in a normal weight, otherwise you're at higher risk for obstructive sleep apnea. Big tonsils and adenoids will crowd the airway, especially in the pediatric population. That's a problem. Small jaw or setback jaw is going to crowd that airway again. High arch palate. So this is kind of one that people don't really know about. So your palate, if you stick your tongue on the roof of your mouth, that's your palate. So it's high in arch, it's going to crowd your airway in your nose and make it more difficult to breathe through your nose, which then we know, breathing through your mouth, you might get a little more airway inflammation, which might lead you down the track of obstructive sleep apnea. And we got the cardiovascular symptoms, hypertension and arrhythmias and things like that. So one of the more characteristic sleeping positions in folks with Down syndrome and people with COPD is a kind of a sitting forward sleeping position, which is probably not all that comfortable, but for folks with sleep apnea, it's actually really, really smart. The diaphragm is going to work a little bit better when you're in a more upright position. Your diaphragm is your major breathing muscle. So you're helping out your major breathing muscle when you sleep like this. And also it's easier for some more of your accessory breathing muscles to get in on the action of breathing. So it's going to help you out a little bit more. But this is more of a sign of somebody who's struggling to breathe on their back or their side, and they find this position easier to breathe, so that there's something going on and they're laying flat. All right, so these are the pediatric symptoms here. So I want to reiterate, a tired adult does not look like a tired child. So as an adult, we will find a couch or a dimly lit room to take a nap. We generally have the self-awareness to know when we're tired and know that we're going to terrorize everybody around us if we don't get another 30-minute nap or something like that. Or we could go grab a coffee. So we know we're tired a little bit. And we go take a nap. That's not so with kids. Kids, they don't know. They just know something's amiss, right? So they can't regulate their emotions all that well. So you're going to see some tears. You're going to get that lip. You're going to get that lip there. And then you're going to get general sullenness. Like, why are you taking me out of bed? So the kids, the way they fight off sleepiness is they get hyper. They kind of move around, they fight off that sleepiness. They haven't really connected the fact that, like, hey, if I go lay down for an hour, I'm going to be just fine. The same way hunger is that. They get hungry, oh Lord, if you don't feed them. And I'm sure most of us have seen an overtired child. It's fun. They fight going to sleep. You know what's best for them. You will just sleep. You're going to feel better. But they don't really connect that. So that's why we have that kind of disconnect between the adult symptoms and the pediatric symptoms. So yeah, sleep testing. I'm not going to do as good of a job as Joey did. Joey got hit a home run on this one. So we call it polysomnography, because we have to make everything sound complicated and things like that. So this is just a sleep test. And we have a couple types of sleep tests. We have in-lab sleep testing, which Joey went through. He went through a diagnostic and then had a little bit of a titration, I think. So the diagnostic, you're going to look like this. You got stuff in your hair, so you're going to have paste. It's not going to be your finest moment look-wise. You're going to have tape all over, wires on your chin. You're going to have nasal cannula in your nose to measure carbon dioxide and see how much air you're actually moving. You're going to have 2 sets of belts on you, one on your chest, one on your abdomen to test how hard you're trying to breathe. You're going to have wires on each of your legs. So if you have hairy legs, that's an issue in the morning because they take those bad boys on there. They have stickers on your chest. So all told, it's about 30 to 40 sensors. So on an adult, it looks okay. But with the kiddos, there's not a whole lot of real estate. So it's more wire than kid. And usually, this little dude looks well behaved. He just knows. He's like, oh, when I'm a teenager, you're gonna get it. But a lot of times there's tears and tantrums and things like that. It's a lot for even an adult to go through, let alone a child. So yeah, you get that. And then you've got your titration studies. So your titration studies are more of a treatment study. So you go through the diagnostic and they say, okay, you have sleep apnea. The next step, let's fix that sleep apnea. So you're going to come in for a titration study, which I'm sad to say is all the same wires, except you get a CPAP mask. So again, not really conducive to sleep. They're just looking for a few hours of solid sleep to kind of fix your breathing and things like that. And then when you go home, hopefully you'll get more restful sleep because the nights in the lab can be a little bit rough, both for parents and for adults. And there's also oral appliance titrations. So oral appliances are made by sleep dentists, and they're kind of a mouth guard that pulls the lower jaw forward to create a little more space in the airway and increase that space and lessen the sleep apnea or snoring and that sort of thing. It's not for everybody. If you have severe OSA, it's generally not even an option. Some craniofacial abnormalities, it's generally not an option. But for the more mild end of the spectrum of OSA, like this can help out some folks. But you can come to the lab to get that kind of titrated. And then we have at-home testing. So this is, it's nicer than in-lab testing. It's easier on the parents and adults who can go through this. It's fewer wires, so you just have the belt, you got a pulse ox on your finger, and you got the nasal cannula in your nose, and that's it. You go home, you put the stuff on, you return it to the lab the next day, easy peasy. You don't have the wires in your hair. You might have a couple wires on your chest to do cardiac monitoring or something like that. But it's under 10 wires, and you get to sleep at home. So it's more prevalently used on the adult side, although on the pediatric side, we're kind of breaking ground with that. We're using it sparingly, but yeah, most often seen with the adults. All right, so treatment options. All right, some medication. Oh yeah.
Can you explain about apnea because of the tongue?
Oh.
By the tongue?
Yeah, so the tongue is a big structure. So let's go back. Go back. This. All right, your tongue, big structure. All right, so when it's positioned properly, which is one of the treatment options is myofunctional therapy, which actually trains you to hold your tongue in a certain position and breathe through your nose. If your tongue is in improper position, it can actually slide back a little bit and infringe on the airway. And now they're coming out with treatment options. I think the folks from Inspire are here, where they stimulate the tongue to move forward to create space in that airway. So since it is such a big structure, if it's moving forward, your jaw's moving forward a little bit, so it's creating more space there. But if it falls back, yeah, you're going to have a big obstruction.
You know, you talk about that VI path. I don't see it with the VI path.
Oh, the BiPAP. Yeah, the BiPAP. So the BiPAP is basically a mode of CPAP. So CPAP is continuous positive airway pressure. So if they set a pressure at, say, 5 or 10, you're getting that pressure when you breathe in and out. So you're breathing out against that 10, you're breathing in 10. BiPAP lets clinicians set an inspiratory pressure. So when you breathe in, you're going to get one pressure, and an expiratory pressure. So when you breathe out, you get a different lower pressure. So that's typically used with hypoventilation or really high CPAP pressures. So once you get to the higher CPAP pressures, 23, it becomes more difficult to kind of tolerate day-to-day life with that. So a lot of people won't acclimate to that. So we might put on BiPAP to kind of help them acclimate. But they have to first try and fail CPAP before a lot of insurances will cover that. Yeah. So we use BiPAP a lot with chronic lung conditions and things like that to kind of mitigate high CO2 levels. So you can kind of ventilate a little bit with that as well. Yeah, there's some really, really cool and complex CPAP modes out there.
That, last path. Life path.
Oh, like,
Right now they have rotation about like 3 or something.
yeah.
So they control in the office, not in
Yes. Yes, so Life Tech is a durable medical equipment company that we work with a lot, that gives out CPAP equipment and things like that. They do have an auto CPAP device, so they could just set a range and send you home with a machine that looks just like that. But the machine will sense these respiratory events that Joey was talking about and increase or decrease the pressure depending on what's going on with the patient. A lot of those modes are tailored more towards adults, so they haven't gotten the pediatric breathing yet. So we use it sparingly on really young kids. But once we get to puberty and beyond, the auto pack we call it is a pretty good option because then it might cut out that titration study we're talking about, where we can just send you home with a machine and get the downloads, like you folks are talking about, from the DME company. But they'll track everything and see how your breathing is out. So there are more streamlined ways of doing things too. Yeah. There's a lot of interesting things out there.
To prevent
Oh.
because of the time of the plastic or sound. That machine prevents
Here. Yeah.
According to the library, the instructions, this machine present
Talking to that.
after that and prevent the time of sound.
Yeah, so the pressure creates a stent, much like you would get a stent put in your artery to kind of prevent that from clogging, but it's an air stent, so it'll push all the tissues away and create this wide open airway. So yeah, it'll kind of force the tongue out of the way. Although I have seen some people sleep with their tongue kind of blocking their mouth a little bit. But yeah, it's very complicated. But yeah, you hit on some very important points with how important the tongue is to the airway and kind of getting that out of the way. Because sometimes it does go in places we don't want it. And it can be a hindrance, but yeah, usually the CPAP or BiPAP therapy will kind of push it out of the way with the air. Okay. So medication. Medications are more prevalent on the pediatric side and earlier in the OSA spectrum. So we're talking about snoring or upper airway resistance, so that pre-OSA and even into mild OSA. So for kids, that apnea-hypopnea index Joey was talking about, the abnormal value is anything over 1 per hour. So in adults, it's 5. So anything over 1 an hour is considered at least sleep apnea in kids. So we'll try some medications, specifically Flonase and Singular, to kind of open up that airway a little bit, treat any allergies that might cause the airway to be a little inflamed. The nasal spray will also treat kind of the adenoids if they're a little enlarged, to kind of create a little more open airway. The problem is with the medications, you have to take them 2 to 3 months every day to see maximum benefit. So for kids, a pill might not be that bad, especially if it's chewable. But if you're spraying something up the nose, that's kind of a whole different ballgame, right? The things you want them to put in their nose, they're not going to put in their nose. Things you don't want them to put in their nose, they're going up in the nose. So we saw mixed results in a few studies there. When people used it, it worked a majority of the time. However, getting kids to use it was the trouble in those studies. But that's kind of for more mild stuff. Weight loss when appropriate. So if you're underweight or overweight, you're at a higher risk for OSA. Some people are just weight dependent. My dad is very weight dependent. When he was 60 pounds overweight, he rocked the house with the snoring and the apnea. He lost all that weight, he had no apnea. That's not true for everybody. Everybody's airway is a bit different, but sometimes the weight loss is all it takes. But weight loss, when you're obese, will either lessen the pressure usually that you're on if you're on CPAP, or it can alleviate the OSA, at least in some of the cases. Positional therapy. So sometimes a weird thing happens. When you're sleeping on your back, you have apnea. When you're sleeping on your side, you don't. So instead of getting a machine and having to acclimate to all this or trying medication, we just say, don't sleep on your back. Which is hard for some people to know, like, well, I sleep on my back or I roll, I don't know. So there are wedges that you can buy, or if you want to do it at home, you could sew tennis balls into a t-shirt, which is very popular with kiddos. So that when you roll on your back, you just kind of bounce over on your other side. So that helps, but parents especially are pretty creative when it comes to creating positional therapy devices. But this will only work if you don't have OSA on your side. ENT consult, so ear, nose, and throat doctor can evaluate your airway, see if you have big tonsils or adenoids, which is the #1 cause of OSA in kids. In adults, this is less popular, but still an option. If you have nasal polyps or something like that, anything that's going to crowd that airway or make it more difficult for you to breathe through your nose is an option there. Myofunctional therapy, dental. So sleep dentistry is a thing. It's gaining ground. So way back when I started in sleep medicine, maybe 10, 12, 15 years ago, it was just coming out with oral appliances that move your jaw forward. They still have those, especially for adults. Those can work pretty well. For kids, they do orthotics. So there are certain dentists that can put in a retainer and help the airway grow out and kind of widen the airway kind of in its natural direction. So it's less of teeth pulling and things like that, and more just a retainer that kind of guides growth. So some very cool things coming from dentistry. And then myofunctional therapy, which isn't huge here. There's only a few places in the States that probably have this and have taken and run with it. But in the rest of the world, it's pretty popular. And it's just a type of therapy that retrains us how to breathe through our nose. So if you're breathing through your mouth all the time, it didn't start that way, right? You started breathing through your mouth because you couldn't breathe through your nose. And so this kind of trains you to re-breathe through your nose to kind of lay off the airway turbulence and get your breathing the right way, so as to not start you on that continuum of OSA. But yeah, not very popular in the States, so you might have trouble finding people, but it has shown, some preliminary studies have shown some pretty good work out of there, but it's still in its infancy. CPAP therapy, it's most of the bread and butter of the sleep world. If you have OSA, if you even have moderate OSA, they're probably going to have to try CPAP. It's been around for 60 or so years. And it's the main treatment in adults. And then after removing the tonsils and adenoids in kids, it's pretty much the main treatment we go to for any kind of substantial OSA. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more, just to kind of how to acclimate yourself to that, because it is a process. As Joey said, it wasn't easy. And then there's some surgical options that are popping up. Some old surgical options we call the U-triple-P, where it's they went in and just took out everything in your upper airway. Wasn't the best thing we found out, so it didn't really cure anything, so that kind of phased out. But now we have kind of the pacemaker for your tongue. It's an oversimplification of what the Inspire is. But basically, they put in a pacemaker that stimulates your tongue to get out of the way and make your airway a little bit bigger. So that's kind of upcoming. It's new, and preliminary studies have shown really good resolution, or at least cutting down on that AHI when using those things. But there is a bit of a learning curve with that as well, because you've got to get used to the sensation of that stimulation. But the Inspire folks can tell you a little bit more about that. That's mostly for adults, including kids. All right, keys to CPAP adherence. Joey could probably give you a lot more information on this. It's always best to get your information from people who use it and have kind of really gone through everything. I brought one of those home. I wore it for a couple of days, but like that is not the same as having to wear it. So kind of the number one thing we hear is you gotta be audacious, right? So when you go get the masks and the CPAP and all the hoses and things like that from whoever gives you those things, be audacious about it. If the mask isn't really working for you, say so. I know it's not the most comfortable thing in the world, and you might just want to get out of there and be like, this is fine, we'll take it, it's fine. But that's probably not the best approach if you're going to have to wear it 8 or 9 hours during the night. So be picky, right? If you try a mask and it is just horrible the first couple of nights, you're like, it's digging in here, I've loosened it up, I've tried to adjust it, and it's just not working, it's too big, it's too small. Contact the DME company and be that, shopper. It's like, no, I want to talk to the manager, you're going to need a mask. A lot of DME companies, they have a policy where if you contact them within a week or 2, they'll just give you another mask. So they'll exchange the masks for you, so you don't have to buy a whole new one. That doesn't work, say, if you've had it for like 4 months and you're like, this is getting a little grody, we'll have to buy it over. But yeah, be outspoken in this area. You want it to be comfortable, you want it to be something that you don't dread wearing every day, And also be patient. Be patient. So this isn't a process usually where you turn on the machine, put on the mask, and everything is glorious for the rest of your life. A lot of times it takes a certain amount of time to acclimate to it. Most of our patients don't put it on and wear it the whole night, first night, and thereafter. And usually it's kind of Joe's experience where you put it on, you find it on the ground the night after, and you're like, I only wore it 2 hours this night or 3 hours the next night. So be patient with it and give yourself a break because it's not an easy process, not by far. Putting something on your face and having air blown down your throat to help you breathe, not an easy thing. So give yourself a break. Be patient with it. And celebrate wins and progress. So don't go in there saying, all right, I got the CPAP machine. I'm gonna wear it 8 to 9 hours a night every night starting now. It's okay. So, hey, I wore it 3 hours this week. Okay, I'll try for 3.5 next week. And you build up to that. And celebrate when you hit those wins. Because it isn't easy. It's not easy. But it's worth it in the long run because you will feel better. You're going to lower your risk for heart attack and stroke and all these big bad things that can happen. And you're just going to feel better when you're getting better sleep. That's it. So we got a little bit of time for questions. All right. We got a microphone somewhere. Just so everybody can hear.
How does this work with insurance?
Yeah, so it depends on your carrier, unfortunately enough. So there are many plans out there, and it'll depend on your carrier. Some carriers require a diagnostic and a titration study, and then you get CPAP and masks every 6 months or so. But usually they do have a cutoff. You need to be compliant within 90 days, and I think the compliance is 4 hours a night for 75% of the time. But that might vary depending on the type of insurance, so you have to check that out. But yeah, if you're not compliant during that time, you might have to then go get another study and then do the whole thing over, which is a little redundant at that point. Yeah, it's tricky.
I don't have a problem with, I think, get old enough to get Medicare. I'm on Medicare, and that seems to be covered on Medicare anyway. What's the, I've been on a CPAP for over a year. I don't see a lot of difference. My wife said she was afraid of, because she would hear me ceasing to breathe on occasion, which is encouraging. But anyway, I don't know if I've improved in that respect. I suppose to some degree, I'm 85, I still get sleepy a little bit in the daytime as I was before. But what's the feedback? That's been my biggest challenge. The company doesn't give feedback to the doctor, so when I go see him, he's in the dark. In fact, I'm going to see him soon. I'm going to say, I'm not coming in until you assure me you have feedback. What does the feedback tell the doctor is my question.
Yeah, so depending on the machine, all machines now should have some sort of downloadable chip, or it just Bluetooth connects to Wi-Fi. So it's very big brother, right? So it'll tell them how long you wore it every night, and it'll give you a nightly summary. What the leak was, so if the mask wasn't fitting right and you're getting a lot of leak. Some machines also tell lung capacity stuff like tidal volume and things like that. That's getting way down the line. But for your basic CPAP, it'll tell you average pressure, how long you've been wearing it, if there were events, especially on the adult side. So if you are having some trouble breathing, and that's how they can adjust the pressure if you show, like, say you gain 20 pounds and the pressure isn't adequate enough, they probably aren't going to bring you into the lab for that. They might just adjust the pressure on the machine and just get that feedback from there. But yeah, every DME company should have some sort of way to get downloads from the machine, whether it's coming out to see you and taking out a chip and downloading it, or just the machine itself connecting to Wi-Fi or the telephone network and getting that data out. But yeah, going to see your sleep doctor about your CPAP without having the data is a little, it's not worth it, right?
Right. I'm sure I have a great machine, and it has a chip, and I use it 7+ hours a night, so I use it to keep track. amount of time I put on. It tells me what the time is.
Oh, yeah. Some of those have apps that you can download and it'll give you like a thumbs up or a happy face if you're compliant.
I think they-
Yeah, you get the happy face? Yeah, so I mean, the feedback should be there. Your doctor or their team should be harassing whatever company you have to do that. Because you're right, like, why would you go in? You're getting a happy face. You know, why are you going in?
Well, I'm gonna harass the doctor before I go in.
Oh, yeah. You gotta be audacious. You pick it.
Hi, thanks so much for the talk today. Our brother Todd's been using CPAP for about 5 years, works really well. I find myself on the weekends saying, Todd, you don't have to use it, it's the weekend. Is that okay to take a break, or am I undoing a lot of the good work the CPAP's doing?
I want to say you should wear it all the time, just because, you know, those events are going to come back. Especially if he has more severe or moderate sleep apnea. Like those events are probably not going away. Some of the more mild obstructive sleep apnea, if you take care of all that inflammation that's happening in there by breathing correctly, you could see a lessening of the illness. But say if you're on the machine, you should use it all the time. I mean, just to be sure. But that being said, if he misses a day or two, it's not the end of the world. But yeah, I mean, if he's wearing it 5 days a week, or if that's what's getting him to be like, okay, I'm going to wear it 5 or 6 days a week, I'm taking Sundays off. You got to work with kind of what patient wants, right, and what they can do. But if you can get them to wear it all 7 days, that's probably the best outcome. But yeah, he's really put his foot down. He's like, I need a break. You take 1 day.
No, it's just me.
It's
It's
just
like,
you?
yeah, you know what I mean? 'Cause, you know, there is a little bit for a caregiver, the psychological thing of being like, okay, put this on, you know? So it's definitely a push and pull. Yeah, no, he's
You're
fine.
doing good work though. Like you're getting to breathe. You're not stopping breathing. His heart is not working as hard. It's what folks with sleep apnea do. The heart speeds up and slows down all night long in response to these breathing. So it really kind of tires out the heart. It really puts some work in it. And that can be very bad long term. So you're doing good work with, getting it on. But I felt the same way when I did pediatric sleep studies. It's just like, I got this cute 3-year-old who is just beside herself, so upset. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm putting these wires on. I'm sorry, this is going in your nose. I'm like, I feel like a terrible human sometimes. And then in the morning, I take it off. Because I took it off. So I also put it on. So I definitely get it where it's just like, oh, I'm so sorry.
My 59-year-old son, Down syndrome, probably needs one. I'm not positive of that. I know that the way we do it is go to the doctor. But maybe this lady could help us. How do you get your son to use it originally?
We made it not an option back in our house. If you wanted to watch Donnie Wahlberg, you had to learn the machine, and I mean, he does it all himself. He fills it with water. He tells me when he's out of distilled water, he puts the machine on himself. The only thing Joey does not do now is order the pieces. But I really do think it has made, I know that just driving in the car with him, he's not unconscious anymore. But he does it all himself now. And when he wakes up, it's still on him, so. But we don't have to plug him in. But, it
Very motivated.
we just didn't make it enough. It was something, it was just not enough. Yeah, but it was really great. His was so bad, and his stopping and starting was so violent, like he would, it was like he was coming back to life again. It was a lot. So he didn't realize it was happening, but we sure did. And his brother would make his brother up to sleep. So it was a big enough deal where we made it no option, and now it's not. It's just going to bed now. So he doesn't think of it.
Anybody have any general questions? Yeah, they're all so helpful.
This question is actually for Joey. Joey, do you lead support groups for other individuals who are being introduced to a CPAP or BiPAP and they're having difficulties adjusting to the use of it?
No. I'm just a regular person like you guys. I also take my CPAP like my mom said, and my mom said, just drink water, clean it every day. Like specifically on Sundays, I clean it because you have the funky feel of the thing, because it needs to be cleaned once a day, even the mask and everything else. And yeah, so if you have a son or daughter or a relative that has a sleep apnea, they have to clean it once per day or once a week, or doing something that they need to do themselves, or if someone has a caregiver who does it for them.
We work at a residential organization and I have a few people who don't like the idea of having a CPAP, and they would very much be influenced by hearing their story.
Oh, thank you.
So as part of that, we will have this available for them to watch and they can listen to him. We also have a video on the Adult Down Syndrome Center website with people with Down syndrome showing you how to use a CPAP. And we have talked about kind of doing some support groups at the Adult Down Syndrome Center. There's a story about a person who's actually here today. She has a friend that lives in New York, and so Christine wears a CPAP and her friend Carrie needed to wear a CPAP, and so they would do phone calls and Skype sessions with each other so that Christine could motivate Carrie to wear hers. Any other questions?
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Joey. Joey did great work. And then Katie and Laura for getting me here. Thank you guys.